Hitting your protein goals while still having amazing tasty food that doesn't get boring or repetitive can seem difficult. But I have 5 delicious and easy high protein recipes for you that each have a minimum of 40 grams of protein per serving. And each of these recipes are unique, like a protein pizza that has a crust made entirely from ground chicken. First one up, we have a Smokey turkey chili that has 45 grams of protein per serving. Now we're first going to grab 1 pound of ground turkey, and I'm going to head on over to our oven and set it to broil at high heat. I'm going to grab a sheet pan and then drop our turkey onto it and press it down flat into the sheet pan. You really want to stretch out the surface area as much as possible and make it really thin too. Now I'm going to throw this sucker in the top rack of our oven for about 12 minutes until it's fully cooked and there's a nice little char on top. In the meantime, let's get to work on chopping our veggies. I'm going to grab 1 white onion. I'm going to cut the tip off and then split it in half and peeling off those outside layers. From here, I'm going to give vertical cuts along the top of the onion, and then I'm just going to run my knife through it once and roughly chop it. We'll next grab 2 jalapenos or 1 poblano pepper if you don't like spicy food. I'm not going to judge you, but spicing up your life is not a bad thing. Now I'm going to cut the root off of our jalapenos and I'm going to split it in half and scoop out all the seeds and inside flesh. From here, I'm going to slice them into planks and then I'm going to run my knife through them and give it a rough mince. Mince it to whatever size you're comfortable with. It's chili, so it's a very rustic meal, so it's okay if the chunks are a little chunky. I'm also going to crush 5 cloves of garlic, and I'm going to grab 2 chipotle peppers in adobo and mince them. This is where the bulk of that delicious smoky flavor is going to come from this recipe. Chipotle peppers are a super delicious and versatile ingredient. The only thing I would say about them is I recommend cutting them on a separate cutting board because they will stain your cutting board. Now 12 minutes have passed and I'm going to pull our turkey out of the oven, and as you can see, it is fully cooked. There's a nice little char on the top of it. We're going to now set this to the side to cool because it is ripping hot. While it's cooling, we're going to grab our pot, setting it to medium-high heat, and then throwing down 2 tablespoons of olive oil in there. Once it's hot, we're going to toss in our onions and jalapenos, and we're going to hit it with a pinch of salt. We're going to saute this for about a couple minutes until the onions are translucent and softened. I'll next toss in 2 tablespoons or 12 grams of chili powder and 1 tablespoon or 6 grams of paprika. Give that a good mixing, letting it toast and bloom for about 30 seconds. Next, we'll toss in our chipotle peppers as well as our garlic and 2 tablespoons or 40 grams of tomato paste. Once again, mixing it very thoroughly and letting it toast and bloom for another 30 seconds to a minute. Next, we're using 1 can of fire roasted crushed tomatoes. You can use regular crushed tomatoes, but I'm using the fire roasted just to give us a little bit more smoky flavor. I'll also throw in 1 can of drained diced tomatoes, also fire roasted for the same reason, and 1 can of drained dark red kidney beans. Oh, and 1.5 tablespoons or 12 grams of better than bouillon beef base. I'm gonna give this a very thorough mixing, making sure to get those onions and tomato paste on the bottom of the pan incorporated with everything else. Now I'm gonna grab our sheet pan because our turkey is fully cooled, and now we're gonna rip it and tear it up into small pieces by hand. I like little defined chunks of turkey, which this will give you, but if you prefer more of a ground turkey, I would maybe cook it in the pan and ground it up by hand. Once you've broken it down into small bits, we're gonna toss that into our chili, give it a mixing, and we're gonna throw in 3 teaspoons or 21 grams of salt, as well as 3 teaspoons or 12 grams of sugar. Give it one final mixing, and now let's plate this chili. I'm gonna throw a few healthy dollops of our chili in the center of our bowl, and then I'm gonna sprinkle some freshly grated medium cheddar cheese on top of that, followed by hitting it with a dollop of sour cream and a few green onions for garnish, and now you have an insanely delicious high protein chili bowl that tastes so good, I gotta add. I wasn't planning on doing this, but I ate the whole bowl because it was that good. Next, we have a bright, healthy, air-fried salmon Buddha bowl that has 42 grams of protein per serving. First thing we'll need is our rice cooker, and in there, we're gonna throw in 2 cups of dried sushi rice, and now we're gonna head over to the sink, pouring in some water to fill it, and then agitating the rice with our hands. We're gonna now drain the water and then fill it up and repeat this 2 more times. Please wash your sushi rice. It makes a big difference. Just trust me here. Once your rice is washed, washed, we're gonna pour in 2 cups of chicken stock or water. I just prefer chicken stock here because I just feel like it adds a little bit more flavor. Hit it with a pinch of salt and now put it back in the rice cooker and turn that sucker on. Apologies for my dancing. While that's cooking, we're gonna grab 1 sweet potato, and with the peeler, we're gonna peel off the outside skin. Now with a knife, we're gonna do a shallow cut on one of the sides of our potato, so that way it can lay down flat. Now I'm gonna cut long planks along the potato, and I'm gonna stack those planks on top of each other, cutting along the potato once more, and then I'm gonna run my knife through them, giving you nice little cubes. The smaller you cut these guys, the faster they'll cook, so keep that in mind if you wanna reduce the total cook time for these sweet potatoes. But now I transfer them into a bowl, and I'm gonna squeeze in 1 tablespoon of olive oil, 1 teaspoon of paprika, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, half a teaspoon of salt, and a few cranks of black pepper. Give that a very generous mixing, making sure to spread out all those ingredients evenly. And now I'm gonna pull out our air fryer. I'm gonna lightly spray our tray with olive oil, toss in our sweet potatoes, and then throw it in the air fryer at 400 degrees for 15 minutes. And now's the perfect time to quickly prep our salmon. I have a nice piece of Atlantic salmon here. I'm gonna cut it into a 3-inch portion, which is what I prefer generally. And I'm also gonna cut some slits in the skin as well so it can more evenly cook. Don't worry about the skin still being on it. It peels off super easily once you cook it. Now I'm gonna hit this salmon with a little bit of olive oil and then hit it with a sprinkling of salt, some paprika, and some garlic powder. Now 5 minutes have passed for our sweet potatoes. I'm gonna push them off to the side, and I'm gonna spray the bottom with a little bit of olive oil again before putting our salmon skin side down in there. I'm gonna now throw it back in the air fryer at 400 degrees for the last 10 minutes. Now it's around this time our rice is finished cooking. I'm gonna throw it into a bowl, and you can see it's just slightly a little burned. It's not really that big of a deal. It kind of mixes away. I'm gonna break up that rice with a spatula, and then I'm gonna pour in 1/3 of a cup of rice vinegar. This will season the rice very well and give it a nice little acidic boost that'll be nice on your palate. From here, I'm gonna move our rice to the side, and now I'm gonna grab our frozen edamame. I'm gonna put them in a container and reheat them just by microwaving them in the microwave. Now the salmon and the sweet potatoes have been in there for 8 minutes. I'm gonna pull them out, and as you can see, everything is looking nicely cooked. Our salmon looks borderline breaded, and the sweet potatoes are a little overcooked, but they're not really because they're sweet potatoes. They're very soft on the inside. Looking back, I think the best cook time would be 8 minutes with the sweet potatoes by themselves, and then an additional 8 minutes with the salmon included. And just so you can see here, the salmon skin peels off super easily, no fuss, and no meat is getting left behind. Now let's get to plating this sucker. I'm gonna throw down a few scoops of our sushi rice, followed by laying down our salmon right in the middle, and then sprinkling some white and black sesame seeds over everything. We'll next pour in our edamame, about 1/4 of a cup, as well as our sweet potatoes and some pickled red onions just to give some nice contrast acidity. And now you have an amazing salmon Buddha bowl that has a ton of protein no matter where you're looking at this meal. You could also pour in a little bit of ginger dressing as well, and it'll complement all the flavors, but honestly, I don't really think it needs it too much. It tastes delicious by itself. Now it's time for our steak lettuce wrap paired with the Salsa Verde, coming in with 47 grams of protein per serving. And if you're liking this video, I would greatly appreciate it if you could please hit the like and subscribe button. Now let's get back to the recipe. First thing we're gonna grab is 1 pound's worth of flank steak. This is a much leaner steak, and I'm gonna put it on a sheet tray with a wire rack and then heavily season it with salt. I am doing what's called a dry brine, so I'm gonna salt both sides, and then I'm gonna throw it in the fridge and let it sit there, ideally overnight, but at least an hour. What this does is it pulls the moisture out of our steak, and the salt penetrates deep into the steak as well. Plus, it dries the outside of it, giving us a better sear when we sear it later on. Now, if you don't have the time to dry brine it, don't stress. Just hit it with salt and sear it, and it'll be just as good, just not as good, but it's okay. Now, let's get going on our prep work. I'm gonna grab 1 red bell pepper, and I'm gonna cut off the root, and then I'm gonna pull out all the inside seeds and whatnot, and I'm gonna remove the root from the top piece as well, because that's good, usable red bell pepper. I'll next cut the bottom of our bell pepper, split it in half, press it down flat on my cutting board, and then run my knife through it, cutting it nice and thin. Take your time with it, because I think cutting it thin gives it a nice little crunchy texture that complements well with the steak. Also, don't throw away the bottom or the top. Cut them the same exact way because they taste exactly the same. They just don't look as pretty. I'm also going to grab 1 carrot with a julienne peeler, and I'm going to julienne that carrot into nice, beautiful strands. I'm also going to cut the strands in half to make them a little smaller, but that's it. From here, we're gonna get to work on our salsa verde. I'm gonna grab a food processor, and in that food processor, we're gonna throw in 30 grams of Italian parsley, 30 grams of cilantro, 18 mint leaves, which is like around half of these little clamshell packets, 10 grams of fresh basil, which I can never find fresh basil anymore. I can only find these pre-chopped basil packets. My grocery store only sells basil in a potted plant, and I'm currently not in the planting phase of my life right now. Now I'm gonna pulse all those leaves in my food processor until it's broken down and the volume is shrunken down to like half. Now we're gonna throw in 25 grams worth of shallots, which to prep, I chopped off the tip and then split our shallot in half, took out the outside layer, and then chopped off the root as well. 25 grams is about half a shallot, so I just very roughly diced it, and that's it. We'll next toss in 20 grams worth of capers, 3 cloves of garlic, the zest of 1 lemon. To zest a lemon, you're gonna need 1 lemon, duh, and a zester or microplane. I'm gonna run my microplane along my lemon, going around the whole lemon, zesting as much of that beautiful yellow peel. Now we're gonna put the lid back on that sucker and then give it a hard processing for about like 10 to 15 seconds to really break down all the garlic and shallots and everything else. Now we're gonna transfer that mixture into a bowl and we're gonna pour in 18 grams of lemon juice, which I cut that same lemon in half, gave it a nice little squeezing, and there you go. 18 grams is about 1/4 of like a really juicy lemon. We'll next toss in 30 grams of Dijon mustard, followed by 100 grams of olive oil. And now we're gonna give it a very thorough mixing before we sprinkle in about half a teaspoon of salt and a few cranks of black pepper. Give it one last mixing, and now this is your salsa verde, which honestly, I think this is one of the best things I've ever made. Now we have everything prepped and it's time to cook our steak. I'm gonna pull it out of the fridge, and then with the paper towel, I'm gonna dab off any excess moisture on it. As you can see, it's looking nice and dry and ready to develop a beautiful crust. We'll next grab ourselves a large stainless steel pan, and we're gonna set it to medium-high heat and let it preheat. Once it's preheated, we'll throw down 2 to 3 tablespoons of high smoke point oil. I'm using avocado oil here. And now we're gonna gently lay our steak in there, dropping it away from us. I like to use these weighted chef press to give constant pressure towards the steak so it gives a nice sear. I'm gonna sear this side for 1 minute, and then I'm gonna flip it and sear the other side as well. We're gonna flip this steak every minute, and it's really important we keep flipping it because when you see here after I flip it for my first minute, this steak likes to buckle a lot once it starts to cook. But if you flip it every minute on the minute, the buckling kind of stays consistent on both sides and it lets you have a consistent sear. Now I cooked this steak for about 4 minutes each side, so a grand total of 8 minutes, and I accidentally overcooked it. The internal temperature is 140. I was aiming for 130, but that's okay. It's still gonna be delicious, and I'm blaming the fact that my gas burner ran out of gas mid-cook and I had to run and refill it, and it just threw me off, and I forgot to check the temperature. Either way, we're gonna let this steak rest for 10 minutes before we could cut into it. Once it's fully rested, we're gonna slice it against the grain, giving us long, biteable strands. You can see here, it's not fully overcooked. There's still definitely a pinkish hue. I just prefer it a little bit more on the red side, but this is still very delicious. Now let's assemble our lettuce wraps. I'm gonna lay down 3 pieces of butter lettuce, and then I'm gonna hit it with a few of our strands of the red bell peppers, as well as our julienne carrots. I'll next lay down 2 pieces of steak, which admittingly is a lot, but this is a high protein recipe, so you gotta eat the steak. I'll also hit it with our salsa verde and optionally 2 pieces of pickled red onions. And that's it. You have an insanely delicious, high protein steak lettuce wrap that tastes incredibly good with this homemade salsa verde. Moving on, we're making our ground pork pasta with a cottage cheese vodka sauce, and it comes in with 42 grams of protein per serving. First thing we're gonna do is grab a large pot, and then we're gonna set it on our burner and fill it up with enough water so I could cover the pasta and set it to high heat. Next, we're gonna grab 1 white onion, and with a knife, we're gonna cut the tip off of it and then split split it in half and peel the outside layer. Now you're only gonna need half of this white onion, but you're gonna give it vertical slices and then you're gonna run your knife through it and chop it. Aim for a small enough dice that'll easily get blended in a food processor. After that, we're gonna grab 5 cloves of garlic and then crush them with a garlic crusher or a knife. Lastly, we're gonna grab some Parmesan cheese and then grate it with the microplane until we get half a cup or 50 grams worth. Now I'm gonna check back on our pot of water and it's currently reached a rapid boil, so I'm gonna grab some salt and throw in 3 heavy pinches as well as our rigatoni pasta. I'm gonna toss in about 8 ounces or half of this box of pasta, and then I'm gonna let it boil and cook until it's al dente. For this box, it says about 13 minutes. Oh, and also make sure to mix it every now and then so the pasta doesn't stick together. While that's cooking, we're gonna grab another pot as well as our protein of choice, which for this one is ground pork. I have about a pound of ground pork and I'm gonna squeeze in 1 to 2 tablespoons of olive oil in our pan, and I'm gonna toss our pork in there, breaking it up into small little bits. I'm also gonna hit it with a heavy pinch of salt, about half a teaspoon, and I'm gonna continue to break it up and cook it in the pan. Once it's fully cooked and nicely ground up, and admittingly, it does not look that great right now, but trust me, we'll be adding a ton of flavor to it soon. In the meantime, we're gonna pour it in a pot, and now we're gonna go back to our pot of boiling water with the pasta. Our pasta is perfectly cooked to al dente. I'm gonna grab a little bit of that pasta water, about half a cup, and then I'm gonna strain our pasta out with a strainer in the sink. I'm also gonna hit it with some cold water because I wanna cool them down to fully stop the cooking process here. Once it's cooled fully, I'm gonna throw them in a bowl, and now this is our cooked al dente pasta. Now let's go back to the pot that we cook our pork in. There's still a little bit of pork fat in there, and that's perfect because we're gonna throw in half of our white onion and saute it at medium-high heat. Oh, and give it a pinch of salt as well, and keep cooking these onions until they're turned translucent and softened. From there, we're gonna toss in 2 teaspoons of chili flakes, all of our crushed garlic, and 1 tablespoon of minced Calabrian chilies. If you've never used Calabrian chilies, it's one of my favorite flavor boosters for especially pasta dishes. But I have to warn you, it is pretty spicy, so depending on your tolerance, you might wanna reduce it to half a tablespoon. I'm gonna saute those ingredients and bloom them for about 30 seconds to a minute. And be warned, the air will be very spicy and you might be coughing like I am here. After the spices and herbs have been bloomed, we're gonna now throw in 1 can of tomato paste. We're opting for a whole can here because this is our only source of tomato flavor, and I'm gonna mix that can in and toast off that like acidic bite it sometimes has. About like 45 seconds to a minute. From here, we're gonna now throw in our vodka, which is half a cup or 100 grams worth. I'm gonna incorporate it with all of our ingredients, and we're gonna keep cooking it off until most of the liquid and alcohol is gone. Now I'm gonna grab myself a food processor, and we're gonna throw all of our mixture in there along with 350 grams of cottage cheese. This is where our vodka sauce becomes vodka protein sauce, and the cottage cheese, as you probably already know, is loaded with protein. Oh, and I accidentally forgot to add half a cup or 50 grams of Parmesan cheese freshly grated. Either way, we're gonna give it a very thorough blending, making sure to scrape the sides if needed and fully incorporating the cottage cheese with the sauce. Cottage cheese is lumpy by nature, so make sure to really blend it to smooth it out and get rid of all those lumps. Once it's blended, you should have a nice, thick, high-protein vodka sauce. And again, I forgot to add the Parmesan, so I'm just gonna pour it in here and then just fold it in, and it'll be just as good. Now from here, let's build our pasta. I'm gonna throw down a few tablespoons of our pasta sauce, and I'm gonna pour in a little bit of our pasta water as well. I'm gonna give it a nice little mixing, and then I'm gonna toss in about 1/4 of our ground pork, giving it another thorough mixing before tossing in our pasta and a little bit of pasta water, just kind of adjusting to how much I want it to be in terms of sauciness. Once you build the pasta to your liking, we're now going to throw it into a bowl, hit it with some freshly grated Parmesan cheese as well as some minced Italian parsley, and now you have a high protein vodka sauce pasta with ground pork. This thing is spicy and creamy. It tastes absolutely phenomenal with the flavors just coating your whole mouth. Now it's time for our main event, our protein pizza with a ground chicken crust coming in at a whopping 136 grams of protein for the whole pizza. First thing we're gonna do is head on over to our oven and set it to 425 degrees convection bake, and we're gonna throw in our pizza pan. If you don't have a pizza pan like this, don't worry, you can just use any regular sheet pan as well. Next, we're gonna start shredding our cheeses. I have here part skim mozzarella as well as full fat mozzarella, which full fat mozzarella is the cheese that they have at the deli counter. They don't usually have it out and about in the aisles of the grocery store. Either way, I'm gonna grate equal parts of both our cheeses until we have enough cheese that'll properly cover a pizza. Make sure to thoroughly mix the cheeses together, and next we're gonna grate half a cup or 50 grams of Parmesan cheese as well. Now let's get to work on making our pizza sauce. We're gonna grab a large bowl, setting it to medium heat, and we're gonna toss in 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter. Once the butter is melted, we'll toss in 1 teaspoon of chili flakes, 2 teaspoons of dried oregano, and 2 cloves of crushed garlic. We're gonna toast these herbs for about 30 seconds so they could bloom nicely, and then we're gonna toss in 1 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes. Along with it, we're gonna throw in 2 teaspoons or 9 grams of sugar and 1 teaspoon or 6 grams of salt. And if you have, throw in 2 stems of basil leaves. But again, my grocery store never has basil, so I can't do that step. Now I'm gonna mix all those ingredients together, and I'm gonna bring it to a low simmer, and we're gonna simmer this for 20 minutes. It should be lightly bubbling. If you overheat it and you reduce your sauce too fast, it'll turn bitter, so take your time with it. In the meantime, let's get to work on our pizza crust. We're gonna grab a large bowl and 1 pound of ground chicken. This ground chicken is gonna be the base of our pizza crust, and to get it going, we're gonna toss it in a bowl along with 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, 2 teaspoons of dried oregano, or half a cup or 50 grams of Parmesan cheese, 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. If you want it to be a no-carb pizza, then you can just remove the flour and don't worry about it. You don't need to substitute anything. 1 teaspoon of salt and 1 whole egg. Now with your hands, give it a very thorough mixing and kneading, incorporating all those ingredients together and thoroughly combining them. Now we're gonna grab a large piece of parchment paper and lay it down the center of our cutting board, and we're gonna throw down our chicken right in the middle of that. Now with your hands, you're gonna spread out the chicken nice and evenly in a circular shape like a pizza. Editor Xander here. The smarter thing to do actually is to put another piece of parchment paper on top of our chicken, and then with a rolling pin or your hands, you can squish it out and roll it out as far as you want. Once you have it to the desired shape you want, we're gonna now pull our sheet pan out of the pizza, and we're gonna now lay our pizza on top of that. Be careful though, because again, it's preheated, so it's already ripping hot. Now, all you gotta do is throw the sheet pan with the pizza back in the oven and let it cook for anywhere between 15 to 25 minutes. Now in the meantime, we're gonna check back on our pizza sauce, and it's been lightly reducing for 15 minutes, and it's thickened up and concentrated a lot of those flavors. If you put basil in it, now's the time to remove it. I'm gonna transfer it into a small bowl, and now you have one of the best pizza sauces or just marinara sauces you'll ever have in your life, and it's so simple but so delicious. Now 25 minutes have passed. I'm gonna pull our high protein chicken pizza crust out of the oven, and it's looking really good so far. I was genuinely surprised at how good this turned out, and it has a nice bit of flexibility to it as well. It doesn't fall apart, it's held together. Now we're gonna lay our pizza toppings on top, so I'm gonna put a healthy scoop of our homemade tomato sauce, hit it with a little bit of our mozzarella cheese mixture, layer on a few pepperonis as well, and some optional diced red onions, and then we're gonna throw it back in the oven for 10 to 15 minutes until the cheese is nice and bubbly. 10 minutes later, and you have a beautiful high protein chicken pizza that has chicken for the crust. I am shocked at how good this turns out. If you make this recipe, you're gonna be mind blown at how good it smells throughout the process. And then when you taste this sucker, holy cow, it's so freaking good. If you like this video, please check out my 5 easy healthy recipes that can be made in under 15 minutes. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Have a wonderful rest of your day.